Aussies look at Japan and they look at Tokyo and they see that attractive nightlife, that real electric vibe. You got the bars, the karaoke, the amazing food. But for Crystal Hilaire, you got to spare a thought for her. She's there not as a tourist, not enjoying a holiday at all. She's there for a completely different reason. She's trying to get her mum out of jail. It's through this that we discover this real dark side to Japan, and it's one that no one wants to get caught up in. It's this unforgiving system of justice that keeps suspects detained for long periods of time, and it denies contact with any family members, and it's what critics are calling hostage justice.
I know she's so strong, and I have to draw strength from her and how she'd be coping. I'm sure she's feeling angry, upset, heartbroken. I know she had been counting down the days to see her family. She had big hopes of coming home. So I don't know how she's going to get through however long we have to wait again.
You've got Crystal, who is the oldest. You see her emotions on her face constantly, and you hear it in her voice. She cannot disguise the way she feels, and more recently has taken somewhat of a spokesperson role in her 2 trips to Japan so far.
How did she get herself into this mess?
So when we got the news that she had been arrested for having drugs on her, I remember thinking, this must be a mistake.
So over 15 years as a journalist, you cover a lot of legal cases and you interview a lot of family members who are adamant in the belief that their relative is innocent. But this one was different. This family was different. All 5 of them described their mother in the exact same way.
She ended up getting detained for something that is not something that she would ever do and ever encourage.
Good evening. She's a Perth grandmother who says she was searching for love, but what happened to Donna Nelson instead is far worse than a broken heart. The 57-year-old has been stuck in a jail in Japan for almost a year in gruelling conditions, accused of hauling 2 kilos of meth into a Tokyo airport. Michael Genovese has this exclusive report.
The former Greens candidate was arrested at Narita Airport with drugs hidden in her luggage, her suitcase fixed with a false outer wall on one side, creating a hidden cavity where police found almost 2 kilos of methamphetamine. Her lawyers will argue ignorance, that she was tricked into taking the bag.
The lawyers explained that her defence was going to be that she had been tricked by this Nigerian love rat into taking the 2 kilos of meth, and they told us exactly how. Donna had fallen in love with someone that she had met on afrointroductions.com, so that's a dating website. It's pretty crazy. Digging into it, talking to her daughters about this guy whose name we found out to be Kelly. We later got a screenshot that was taken during a video call between Donna and Kelly. All of a sudden we had a look at this guy who was potentially responsible for so much misery. So this wasn't an instant thing. She didn't just meet this guy online and then decide to take a trip to Laos and then to Tokyo. No, this was taking months.
Mum had been speaking to this person for 2 years. We were aware of her plans for her future with him.
He'd convinced her that he was this international high-flying businessman who was setting up a clothing label, or had set one up, and it was so successful that now he was branching out into suitcases. In the suitcase were some samples, and by helping him, all Donna had to do was take it from A to B. So the first thing that we had heard was that there was an Australian who'd been detained at a Tokyo airport accused of smuggling drugs. And That's a story, sadly, we're familiar with, and it's one that never ends well. But then the details started to trickle through that it was a West Australian and it was a grandmother who'd been caught with 2 kilos of meth. And that's unusual, and our reporter senses started to tingle.
Donna wants to say that she is going to be able to prove her innocence. She's 100% confident of that in herself, and she wants everyone in Australia and the world to know that she is innocent.
Oh, she's the best grandmother. For Janelle's oldest boy, he's 14, he struggles without her. And my daughter, who's 3, anytime a plane flies over, she's like, oh, that's Nanny, hello, Nanny.
It was heart-wrenching to hear that, because that kind of gives you an idea of the impact that this is having on 1, 2, 3 generations in that family. You look at those things and it just didn't compute with someone who had decided all of a sudden in her 50s to smuggle 2 kilos of meth into Japan.
She's a beautiful mother, a beautiful friend, so strong, fierce Aboriginal woman who's always been involved in helping out in her community with the children.
Exercise their right to natural justice and procedural fairness by taking it to trial, because they probably would get off and we wouldn't have the over-incarceration rates that we have of black people in this country.
We just all yin and yang together, and Donna is part of that beautiful group, and we have so missed her. It's been devastating. Sorry.
I remember thinking, if she is innocent, well, this is a travesty. And if she's guilty, well, this is just crazy.
They put in a no contact order, and that pretty much has meant that anyone Mum has known before her time in Japan, like, she can't have any contact with them. It's only her lawyers.
There is growing scrutiny over the Japanese justice system. Critics call it hostage justice, the endless detention of suspects who say they're innocent.
It kind of blew the story open in a way, because it was the first time that we had actually revealed publicly the conditions in which she was being kept in Chiba prison. She was isolated in a cell for 23 hours a day. She was let out for 30 minutes of exercise. She was only allowed to shower once every 3 days.
It's a nationwide practice, denying the right to see family members. I think meeting family and having communication with people is a basic human right. It's just imaginary fear of tampering evidence, and they just avoid all the communication from the detainee. That is absolutely injustice.
It's hard to imagine someone being in a cell for sometimes the whole 24 hours of the day and looking forward to being able to come out for that 20 minutes, half an hour, and that being the highlight of your day. Not having anyone that you can interact with. Mum's such a social person, so to think of her just existing in her own bubble is really... I don't know how she's surviving.
If she's convicted, she could effectively be spending the rest of her life behind bars here in Japan.
We went to Chiba prison. It looks like a fortress from the outside. The conditions we were told was that she wasn't allowed visitors. We needed to demonstrate that, so in we walked.
Mum feels nervous. I feel nervous because I didn't see my mummy in so long.
Ta-da.
So as the facts about Donna started to come out, it just seemed weirder and weirder that she would be the type of person to do this. She's a former federal Greens candidate. Her family say that she was so anti-drugs and had been a part of community campaigns against drugs. So the likelihood that she was now in her 50s smuggling 2 kilos of meth seemed far-fetched.
She had been communicating with someone online. It seemed like they had promised her a happily ever after sort of scenario, and she just wanted to be loved, and they tricked her into doing something that she would never ever do.
We went to Chiba prison. It looks like a fortress from the outside. We walked in with the camera. It was pretty clear that we were journalists, and we didn't even get near the front gate before we were escorted off by authorities. Donna had been in there almost 2 years. She was reading a Bible back to front just to pass time. Complete ban for family visits. She was allowed to see a pastor, she was allowed to see embassy staff, and she was allowed to see her lawyers. And that was it. She wasn't even allowed to talk to other detainees and prisoners inside Chiba prison. Certainly her appearance had changed, and there was serious concerns about her mental state at that point. We get to the point now where her trial's finally about to happen. Jamie Freestone is our most experienced legal reporter, so the decision to send him was pretty easy. If there's anyone who's going to be able to make sense of the Japanese justice system, it's Jamie.
On one side of the courtroom, we've got Donna Nelson's 2 defence lawyers. On the other, 3 prosecutors, but it's predominantly been handled by the male prosecutor, who I understand to be quite a senior prosecutor here in Japan.
Well, the conviction rate there is like 99% or more. So we know that she's innocent, but we know that she's got a big task ahead of her. Her lawyers have a big task ahead of her. We're very confident that they will do a really good job. But yeah, there's still that nervousness and fear.
Donna Nelson's daughters know that their mother's chances of getting off this charge are remote, but they are hoping that the judging panel will see that she's been conned, see that she's been deceived, and finally let her walk free from Chiba prison.
Shantae, it's obviously quite confronting being outside the court and seeing it for the first time. How are you doing?
Sorry. Sorry, I wasn't meaning to cry, but it's okay. I'm excited to see her, but I don't know how she's going to be in that state. I don't know how I'm gonna feel seeing her for the first time.
Tomorrow we expect prosecutors to outline their case before the first witness is called. I'll be here in Tokyo throughout the week to bring you the latest developments from the trial as they happen.
It's hard because until you're here, you can't really prepare yourself for what's going to be happening tomorrow and the days beyond that. So it's a little bit overwhelming, I think. For me, at least, I've been here once, but I think it's hard for the other girls.
Donna Nelson enters the courtroom wearing handcuffs and shackles, and it's quite a confronting thing for the family to be able to see.
Just trying to be strong, because when Mum locks eyes with us, I want her to feel our strength and that she'll feed off that.
The Japanese legal system is very different to what we know in Australia. They do have a jury system, but it's quite different. We have 3 professional judges sitting in the bench, along with 6 lay judges. They're people selected from the community. They wear civilian clothes, and they sit up there on either side of the 3 professional judges. From what I've seen, they are listening very intently. They get very engaged in the process, looking at the evidence.
This is the first time in 22 months that Mum will be able to give her version of the events that happened, and I'm hoping that the judges can see that she's been a victim of this love scam and that she was not aware at all of what was in that suitcase.
The Nigerian man flew her business class from Perth to Singapore and then on to Laos. Ms Nelson testified,
"At no point did I feel like Kelly was scamming me. I felt very happy because he was treating me like the Queen.
and he asked her to collect a case which he was thinking about selling at his Japanese shop.
The only place I can get that suitcase is in Laos.
Okay, so what's the plan?
How are you? I miss you.
I want you to call and email me more regularly. I don't want to get hurt again.
I will never hurt you, sweetheart.
But when she arrived in Laos, there was no booking for her at the hotel, Kelly suggesting she pay for a room at the Crown Plaza.
Should I just check into a cheaper hotel tomorrow? I'm getting worried now. Honestly, I feel like I should just try to go back home. This is not making me feel good. I'm angry.
Please wait. The guy is at work. He will come with $1,500 as soon as he finishes.
The court heard she only received the suitcase from Kelly's business manager 15 minutes before checking out to fly to Japan. Donna Nelson had a look at this suitcase and she thought that it looked new and that there was nothing wrong with it. She opened it and inside it she found some clothing samples. She even rang Kelly and he told her it was clothing samples and to bring it with her. She couldn't feel anything in the bottom of the case and she headed to the airport. Her flight to Japan ended with her being stopped by customs at Narita Airport and she was told to come across to one side, never imagining that there would be almost 2 kilograms of methamphetamine hidden inside that case. It was such a sophisticated way in which the drugs were concealed under a hidden bottom in this suitcase and screwed down, and then in tubes under this false floor in the case. So photos of that have been tendered to the court. Whether they'll ever be released to the media remains to be seen. The daughters themselves have been very strong sitting in the public gallery, not wanting to show any sadness or any emotion to make sure that their mother can remain strong during these proceedings. But it's been very difficult for them because they've not been able to talk to her in the room.
I think just the eye contact, and she did mime "I love you," but yeah, none of us would do it back just because we don't want to get her into any kind of trouble or anything.
Is it frustrating not being able to understand what's going on during the proceedings?
It is at times. Yeah, and I think for some of the details it's a bit confronting, so in some ways it's sort of a little bit of a shield to not have to hear everything.
Yeah, it was well worth the 2-year wait. Yeah.
We saw that she was in tears briefly, but at one point I saw such a big bright smile on her face. How did that make you feel?
Really good. Yeah. It's good to see her staying positive, and yeah, we were definitely fighting back the emotions, just trying to be strong for her. Yeah.
But the family strong.
Me too.
You too.
The emotion in the courtroom when Donna Nelson was led away.
I like this one.
She looks gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
Donna Nelson has 2 Japanese lawyers at the bar table representing her. They've worked tirelessly over the last year to prepare Donna Nelson's case. They've gone through the hundreds of text messages and other documentation to find out about the background between Donna Nelson and this man known as Kelly.
Our main argument is she was tricked to bring the suitcase into Japan, not knowing that there's a drug inside. She met a person online and she's been in contact with that guy for more than 1 year, and he was gaining trust, and then she was tricked.
On day 2 of Donna Nelson's evidence, her cross-examination continued, and it was that day that she became quite emotional. She broke down crying, saying,
My children and grandchildren, they're the innocent victims in this, and I will never be able to forgive myself for the heartache they have endured these 22 months. I was gullible and naive. I hate myself.
When Donna Nelson arrived at Narita Airport, she had to fill in a customs declaration form, and she ticked the box saying that she hadn't been given anything by someone else. She said that she ticked the box because she believed that she'd been given it by her future husband, so she considered him part of her family and she didn't think it was necessary to tick that box. It's when she's been taken aside and asked to come towards the inspection room that they've given her another document, and it had all these pictures of suitcases with concealed drugs in it. At that point, she felt she needed to explain that she had been given something by someone else. She referred to the samples, the clothing samples that she'd found in the suitcase, but she also said that she never imagined that there could have been drugs in the case. And it's then that they've x-rayed that suitcase. When the case was x-rayed, it showed a strange green shadow. The officer said he asked her what the shadow could be, and she replied she didn't know, but it could be drugs. The officer testified, "I thought she knew that there was a drug inside the suitcase."
The main evidence from the prosecution is that custom officers who said she acted suspicious. There's a lot of mistranslation. That's also the difficulty in this case.
The court heard that there was even difficulties with the professional interpreter understanding what Donna Nelson had to say because she was so upset. She was telling her to slow down and stop, getting her to repeat things. So the defence was querying how accurately the customs officers were keeping a record of what Donna Nelson was telling them. Under questioning from Donna Nelson's lawyer, the customs officer said he could not remember whether the interpreter he eventually called was a man or a woman.
You can't recall the sex of the interpreter, but you are trying to recall what the interpreter said?
Yes.
The cross-examination ended when the prosecutor said to Donna Nelson, "Do you agree that this was all a mistake and that you wouldn't ever do it again?" And she said, "That's correct." When asked whether there were any mistakes with the allegation, Donna Nelson replied,
"I had no knowledge that there was methamphetamine in the luggage. I was deceived by Kelly, a man I was considering a marriage partnership with. I am innocent."
It took a few days before you and your sisters actually found out what had happened.
I feel that those days were the hardest days out of all of this, even harder than what we're going through now. It came to like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then we really started to feel stressed. And from there were no answers for days. We couldn't eat, we couldn't sleep. We were worried about if she'd been in an accident, if this person had killed her.
Was there any attempt by Kelly to get in contact with you or Ashley when she hadn't arrived at the airport?
She did contact him to try and find out if he'd heard from Mum.
Weren't you meant to be in Japan to spend time with Mum?
Yes, I travelled today and I'm going back today.
Okay, please go to police in Japan and ask where Mum is.
So Ashley Charles is Donna Nelson's second eldest daughter, and she also found love online. She was very strong when she gave her evidence, running at the court through her mother's background.
Feeling confident, but just a bit nervous to see Mum. But I'm confident in my testimony.
Under oath, Donna Nelson's second eldest daughter revealed she had concerns the 58-year-old could be caught up in an online romance scam, but pointed out both she and her sister had married people they had met online. But Ashley Charles did send her mother a news article about a romance fraud.
"Go to sleep, babe. Don't wait up. I will read it."
I really want you to give this a lot of thought and do your research about this. I still need to speak with you about this before you make any decisions to do anything or go anywhere or give any banking information out.
She testified she asked her mum for a photo of the love interest she knew as Kelly and had also been sent a copy of his Japanese residence card, which revealed his name was Rex Tony Okafor. But the Japanese characters also reveal the identity card is for a woman whose address is at the Japanese Ministry of Justice.
Hundreds, if not thousands, of people get duped by love scams every single year. In the coverage of this, we've spoken to Consumer Protection, who report a rise in it year after year after year. It's a really predatory style of consumer scam, and it's one that it happens a lot more than people are willing to admit.
Online love scams are very common. They're sort of a long game scam where the scammer intends to form a relationship and gain the victim's trust, and then that will often lead then to requests for money. But more recently we're seeing a very disturbing trend in that the victims are being lured into drug smuggling.
She was lonely after her divorce. They had hundreds of online communications, video calls, texts, Google chats.
The scammers build up the relationship over time and they learn about you and they learn what you like and what you respond to, and so you're groomed. You're gradually groomed until you really believe that somebody is in love with you.
I know my mum would want us to raise awareness on her behalf so someone doesn't end up in the same boat as her. This person has dedicated like almost 2 years to promising mum a life together, to get married. They discussed their wedding.
She could be close to 80 years old before she walks free from Japan prison.
In the words of her daughters, that's beyond the average lifespan for an Indigenous woman in Australia. So is that effectively a life sentence? That her daughters were preparing themselves for that.
I just have to be hopeful and get by saying she's going to be home soon, and that's all I can do to survive through the next week even.
I saw her playing.
Oh, I'll be so happy to see her.
She must be coming down.
Yeah. Why am I getting nervous to see her own mother? I'm getting nervous. I'm excited, but...
Me too.
You too.
While Donna Nelson's been in custody, she's not been able to have any contact, not been able to talk with any of her family. That ban ended when she finished giving evidence on Friday.
Mum feels nervous. I feel nervous because I didn't see my mummy in so long. And I missed her so much.
I don't want you crying.
Oh, but happy tears. It's a happy day.
I don't want you.
Okay, I do my best to only smile.
The visit was through glass and there was an interpreter there, so everything they said had to be interpreted into Japanese and in a record taken of what was being said. So that was eating up valuable time as they spoke with their mother. How was it?
It was really good. We felt bad leaving because it just feels like 20 minutes isn't long enough to talk to her after 2 years, but we're grateful that we even got to have the opportunity to talk to her like that.
Oh, it was so amazing to see her after so long and like have a real conversation with her. She told me that I didn't need to stay all this time and that I could go home, but I told her that my heart is here and I will be here until after the verdict, and whatever decision is made, I still want to see her afterwards and I'm not going home until then.
So on the morning of the verdict, Crystal has a visit with her mum at Chiba Prison. She's feeling really happy and they're expecting that Donna Nelson will be found not guilty.
I feel really positive today. I had been trying to prepare myself for either outcome and it's been difficult in the last few days. However, today I just woke up with a sense of peace and that everything's going to be okay. So I'm just really hopeful for the outcome that we are wanting right now.
And so Donna Nelson's defence lawyer went off to get some money to make sure Donna Nelson had money to be able to buy a airfare if she's found not guilty.
I think Ria is feeling quite confident and she doesn't want Mum to spend a day longer than she has to behind bars. So that just shows what a big heart she has.
Does she know anything about the media coverage of her case?
Yes, I even told her about it today. I told her that there's lots of positive stories and that she has so much support, love, prayers. And she did get a little bit emotional, but she was smiling at the same time.
And your sisters are all together back in Perth today?
Yes, they're all together. They're going to be at my auntie and uncle's house, surrounded by lots of support and positivity. So yeah,
I'm missing them, but I know they're all fine. Even with the high conviction rate here, I'm feeling good about today.
Donna Nelson has spent almost 2 years in solitary confinement behind these walls at Chiba Prison. It's from here she'll be taking the short distance to learn her fate.
Good afternoon. Can we ask, are you feeling confident? And if
I believe the judge will find the truth and she will be freed today, but if there's any miscarriage of justice, we're going to fight until the end. That means until she gets freedom.
Today is 23 months, so it's been a long 23 months, and all of it comes down to this last hour. I'll just read out a statement first. We are disappointed and devastated by the court's verdict in our mum's case. We maintain that our mum was the victim of a romance scam. She is the victim of a crime and not a criminal.
Good afternoon. We have breaking news. Perth grandmother Donna Nelson has been found guilty of drug smuggling. Jamie Freestone is live for us in Japan.
The sentence that's been handed down is 6 years. The judges found that the things that had transpired between her and her online lover known as Kelly, that these things should have led to Donna having a doubt about the fact that there was some illegal drugs in that case. And they said that Donna Nelson had played a peripheral role in this operation, but it was an imperative and essential role. So that's what they have taken into account in determining her guilt.
I was so shocked that such great woman is being caught in such case.
It was interesting to speak to just an ordinary member of the community who was taking an interest in this case.
I think they just punish carelessness too often, and that's the problem of this country.
It was really, really hard seeing Mum as everything was being read to her, the way she just put her head on the desk and sobbed. That was hard, not being able to comfort her in any way. So when she finally made her way back towards me, I just said to her, "It's okay, you're gonna come home soon, it's okay."
I believe this is a very unreasonable decision, but we will fight until the end, until she gets freedom.
That's the million-dollar question. Where is Kelly now? The senior judge commenced his reasoning, and almost immediately he said that Donna Nelson was to be sentenced to 6 years behind bars. Donna Nelson then had to sit through almost an hour of reasoning, knowing that she had this time to spend in a Japanese prison. She was crying, she was sobbing, she was quivering, she had her head down. All the while, Crystal was sitting in the front row of the public gallery. She held back her emotions because she told me that she wanted to remain strong for her mum. And she also didn't want there to be a commotion in the court that her young daughter might witness.
As she was leaving, the one thing she cryingly said to me was, "But my grandchildren." And I know it's really hard for her, thinking of her grandchildren growing up and having birthdays, and she's missing out on their childhood. And I want her home for that.
Crystal said to her mum, "Everything's going to be okay." They were just staring into each other's eyes. It was just for an extra few seconds that Donna Nelson was allowed to stay at the dock to have that interaction with her daughter before she was taken away with her hands cuffed.
Crystal, is it fair to say an appeal is likely?
I think the lawyers have gone to talk to her now, and it's probably something that is going to be on the cards. They're not happy with the decision.
I believe this is a very unreasonable decision, but we will fight until the end, until she gets freedom.
So not long after Donna's lawyers had met with her in the prison, they came to meet with me, and they were able to confirm for me that they were lodging an appeal.
We strongly believe that there's a miscarriage of justice at the trial stage, so we decided to file the appeal on the very day of the verdict.
And are you able to say what the main point of your appeal is?
We believe that the court was wrong in finding she intentionally smuggled drug into Japan. She was not the main person who planned this, but still the court found that she actually recognized the possibility there's a drug inside somehow, and Donna actually couldn't really understand how they find her guilty, how they found her intention and recognition that drug was inside of the suitcase.
The judges have discounted that. They said that she should have had queries in her mind about whether there was something untoward about that suitcase. In Australia, we operate on the basis that someone is innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Is it a similar system in Japan?
Yes, logically speaking, legally speaking, yes. However, it seems it doesn't work in that way in this case.
Lawyers tell me that this process could take 3 to 5 months before the appeal is actually before the High Court, and whether that actually happens within that time frame remains to be seen. And we're talking about a lady who was looking for love, who had been hurt before. She thought that she'd found her next husband.
Yes, I think she was in love with Kelly, of course, but at the same time, but she's not reckless. She was careful enough to read the article about the romance scam, and she was careful enough not to send the passport from her side until she recognized Kelly's ID card. So she was really careful all the time.
She didn't think that Kelly was a scammer. She told the court she didn't want to discriminate against Kelly just because of the colour of his skin. Donna Nelson had grown up in an era where there was a lot of discrimination because of the colour of her skin, and she wanted to treat Kelly the way she had wanted to be treated when she was younger.
On whether there's a police investigation into the whereabouts of this Kelly guy?
I know my sister Ashley had submitted some to Interpol, start an investigation. She hasn't heard anything further about this guy being tracked down.
A spokesperson for the Australian Federal Police has told 9 News the AFP has no comment on the matter, while WA Police say their ability to identify the true identity of a scammer is limited when they are overseas.
And there's a real sense of anger towards this man for what he has done to their mum.
Where is Kelly now? That's the million-dollar question. The mystery Nigerian man, no one knows where he is. What attempts have been made to find him is not known. That's how these scams work. That's how they get normal people tricked. They lure them through time and through effort into a trade-off at the end that is going to be worth, in this case, millions of dollars for the scammers. And it's a syndicate. It's not just one guy sitting in a bedroom trying to trick someone. This is the tragedy. This Kelly guy has probably got more than just Donna on the hook at the same time. So he's probably on a phone call with Donna in the morning, the next person in the afternoon, and someone else at night across several time zones across the world, with an evil plan in mind to try and get them to, in this case, smuggle drugs and make money for them. Before the verdict, Crystal had said to me that her mother's birthday is in February. She'll turn 59 in February, and it was their hope that they weren't going to be spending another birthday without their mother.
Happy birthday! Happy birthday!
They were so happy and positive and believing that there was going to be a not guilty verdict. Now Donna remains in Chiba prison. Her 6-year sentence does include a discount of 430 days for the time she's already spent in custody. So that means she has about 4 years and 10 months to serve out on that prison sentence. It's remarkable that these 5 daughters have so strongly been able to support their mother, and how strong Donna has been in the courtroom every day of this trial. Not long after Donna had a visit from her lawyers in the prison after the verdict, she released a statement to me, and she said words to the effect that her tears in the courtroom were not for herself but for her daughters and for her grandchildren and her family, who now have to grieve again.
It has been devastating for us as Donna's daughters to be cut off from our mum for these past almost 2 years. Our hearts break to think of her being detained in Japan for 6 years. Our mum means the world to us. We will continue to do all that we can to improve her conditions in prison and make sure that she has what she needs while we continue to fight to bring her home. We ask the Australian government, the media and the public to continue to watch her case and to support us as we fight for justice for her. Thank you from Donna's daughters, Crystal, Ashley, Janelle, Taylor and Shantae.